right. How's it going, Scott? Tito?
It's going all right. How are you doing, Dalton?
Hey, Don. Hey, Scott.
Doing pretty good. Right on. Looks like we were waiting for maybe a couple more people. Scott?
Yeah, I invited Jim Mackey from our site as well. So we just want to give him 1 or 2 minutes. Tito, I'm impressed you're early. That's great. We
I
don't always
try.
have luxury.
I try. I know how that can run away on you real quick, though.
Well, it's always funny, and I don't know what you guys use internally there, but sometimes when you go to open up like a Teams meeting or a Zoom or whatever, like, oh, there's the latest update and you got to download, then it sets you back a couple minutes sometimes. So especially first time using it, or you run into issues with, oh, it's not going to access my mic and I got to restart and all those fun things.
Exactly. Nope, I've been in enough meetings now that it's muscle memory at this point. I invited over Tom McAlpine. He's also a telephony engineer here at Ucare.
Great. The more the merrier. All right. Let me ping Jim real quick and then we can start.
Sure.
Good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Are you both up in Minnesota or where are you both located at?
Yeah, actually, I'm a cheesehead myself. I'm across the river,
Okay.
but I'm like 30 miles away from the office is all.
Okay.
He's now part of Team Enemy. Cross border rivalry.
Also known as Team Superior. Is that the deal?
So it sounds like you guys have no fun there in the work environment then.
Nope, not at all. Work all day, that's it.
Yeah, well, good deal. Well, hey, appreciate you guys both being on time. My name's Scott Saylor. I've got responsibility for the relationship between Ucare and NiceCX1. With me, though, I brought Jim Mackey. Jim, you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Tom and Tito. I'm Jim Mackey. I run the region for NiceCX1 and been with Nice in Contact, actually NiceCX1, formerly in Contact, since 2015. And so, yeah, our goal today is really to figure out how we could best help and support what you guys are trying to accomplish. And it's always good to get on the phone and kind of talk through some of those things that you guys are trying to do in life. So thank you guys. Wanted to say thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, appreciate the time to sit down with us and chit chat. We just really wanted to find out, and we can talk a little bit about our environment, and we wanted to see if how the competition stacks up is what we really like to see. I think we've used our product here long enough that we're just trying to see what other options are out there than what we've grown accustomed to. What else can the rest of the world do, and how does it differ? How can it make our processes more efficient, better, streamlined, etc. So we're always in the business to improve. Currently, we use Calabrio. We've used Calabrio for quite some time. We primarily use it in the call recording and QM platform or a side of it. There has been talks about adding in analytics or speech analytics. So we want to evolve that aspect of it to not just use it as primarily as call recording and just QM purposes, but how can it help us out from an analytical standpoint, and what tools can we leverage around that environment. The other aspect that is at possible play is going to be the WFM, WFO. We use Aspect for that today, EWFM solution. However, if it would be, or it makes more sense to bolt on all of those into like one discrete package, whether it's Nice, Calabrio, etc., utilize all of that. We're hoping that we'll gain some benefit because of that too. So it'll be less disjointed, more optimized, and I'm assuming that each feature would kind of feed off or supplement one another, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for today from a solution standpoint. Again, we use it in its core capacity. However, the business would like to expand upon if there are other things out there. What can they do? How do they do it? And how does that look as a complete package?
Sure. I guess one thing you didn't mention there, and I'll take a step back. I think, Tito, you're a voice infrastructure architect. Is that accurate
Correct.
in terms of role? And then, Tom, how do you kind of fit into the overall picture?
I'm also on the voice team here. Basically, it's just Tito and I that are the primaries on the voice infrastructure.
Okay. And I guess one question is, what are you using from a voice platform perspective? I know we kind of went around the wheel from a WFO perspective, but
Yep.
are you using Cisco then?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're primarily a Cisco shop. So we've got Call Manager 11.5, we've got PCE 11.6 respectively, and our Collab Radio is also 11.5 or 10.4, I should say, right now.
Okay. And why do you think the business is potentially looking to maybe add new features or anything? Is there something going on? Is there an issue to move things to the cloud? Kind of give me some perspective of maybe why now.
I think there's a little bit of all of that involved, right? So right now, the business doesn't have any clear intentions as to what direction they're going to go as of yet. We're starting our conversations down the cloud route. I know that there's plenty of vendors out there and solutions that, feed into that world, right? Would that be a good fit for our environment? We have a lot of HIPAA, PCI, et cetera, compliancy type things that we're beholden to. That's because we work with Medicare members here in the healthcare space, and so that's primarily our. We want to ensure that calls are encrypted, call recordings are encrypted, et cetera, that they're going to remain compliant. We have 10-year compliance. We have 10-year retentions, so we have to keep all of our call recordings for at least a minimum of 10 years. And so all of it is on-prem right now. We would like to entertain cloud options where it fits, as it fits, if it fits. And so.
And would you be interested in looking at the voice component and pivoting that up to the cloud? You mentioned trying to improve, become more streamlined. Is that something you've thought about?
Yeah, yep, we have thought about that as well. And so we're not 100% yet ready to make that jump. The only reason is because of our heavy security compliance. And so there's, it fits other business models a lot easier than it would ours. So we have to make sure that all of that is intact. We dot our I's, cross our T's, et cetera. And if our securities team signed off and says, yep, we can go that route, we would remain compliant, working with whatever vendor that we do decide at that time, then we'd take that leap forward.
Yeah, usually that's a big component of this, especially if people haven't done anything in the cloud before, is there's an IPsec or some sort of security questionnaire that we work through. Rest assured,
Yep.
we've got that covered. We even have FedRAMP certification on our end. So we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's, but I understand every company's different. It's definitely something we can walk through with you to give you some comfort with that.
Gotcha.
But
One of the things that, yeah, I was just going to say, there's so many of the blues that utilize our platform in all aspects of what you're describing. Just as an example of kind of directly what you're talking about, with the HIPAA high trust, like all of the type of PPI, the personal identification, like all those things have to be covered, and we have to adhere to all of those rules and regulations and compliances in order to solve for those kinds of customers that are what I would consider extremely similar to what you do, right? And so that's part one. And then part two, we made a very concerted effort in our architecture to kind of separate our voice traffic from our application traffic, because we realized a long time ago that as a lot of companies are utilizing, say, for example, AWS as their microservices architecture to kind of get things built faster and be able to kind of extend and have active geo redundancies and build up BUs quickly and fast. Like there's little substitute for what AWS is able to do from the application standpoint, but from a voice and from a strength of network standpoint, we've been doing this kind of cloud voice thing for over 17 years, and it's solid, robust. Backed by a contractual guarantee, right? And so, from a security perspective, from a overall redundant perspective, from a MOS score perspective, from a MOS score point of view, like all those reasons, when you guys start digging in with us on that specific piece, Tito and Tom, you'll probably be like, wow, this is very robust, So we're looking forward to sharing with you as we kind of go further. But I just wanted to maybe calm your fears about that one part, because that's really, I would say that's probably one of our biggest strengths, actually.
Gotcha. With that said, do you also offer on-prem solutions as well?
Our company, NICE as a whole, they've always offered on-prem solutions, and so that is an avenue that we can explore. Most of our customers, most of Scott and our customers are all cloud-based, but that doesn't mean that if you wanted to just do, a hybrid type of approach, we couldn't do that. We could totally do that.
Gotcha. And then how does that look when transitioning over from one call recording vendor to another? Typically, all of the call recordings are done proprietary wise, right? There's some type of encoding and encrypted, etc. How does that look if we were to take a lot of our archived storage and convert that over to NICE? Would that be a smooth process? Is that a possible process, etc.?
Yeah, it is. It's possible, but it's not. We'd have to dig into like how we would go about it, right? That especially if all of your things are. Was it? You say Callminer? No, you said not Callminer. You said Calabrio, right?
Calabrio, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Calabrio. So we've done it before. We just would have to look into the specifics of your guys' situation, of exactly the call recordings and the encryption that you have right now and all that kind of stuff.
I think, Tito, one of the questions I would probably have is, especially with a 10-year retention period that you have, is how do you actually access the call recordings today? Are you going in through Cisco and there's like a link that pulls it to a file server? And then I guess long-term, what would your expectations be? Would it still be, let's assume you stay with Cisco, you don't look at like us for the routing. Would you still want to go through there and then be able to access the call recordings? Or have you kind of thought about what that ideal situation would look like?
Yeah, so we have all of our call recordings on-prem, and so they're all stored. We have about roughly 22 terabytes worth of call recordings right now, and so we plan on keeping it that way. In other words, we still want to retain control of that. I know that there are storage options out there. It does become spendy and pricey over time as it grows, and not only that, but again, with 10-year retention histories on our side that we have to adhere to, requirements that really, that doesn't complicate things, right? But it definitely eats up a lot of storage.
Sure.
And so we're facilitated to facilitate all of that additional space that may come and that we currently require. I'm not sure how that looks like from a cloud perspective, and if it's easy enough to move around. That's the other thing too, is we'd like to be able to archive a lot of our call recordings. So whether it's a cloud solution or not, is there a way for us to pull down those call recordings securely so that we can have them on net, right?
Sure. And do you have screen recordings with those as well?
Yes.
Or are you just doing audio? Okay. And is a screen stored with it, or is it a separate thing where we would need to link the audio and the visual?
They are stored together.
They are stored together. Okay.
Yep. They're stored together and they are synced as well. So when you play the audio, then
it's a single
screens,
contact.
Yeah, we do 3 screens minimum, or average 3 screens.
Okay.
And those are held for 2 years. The audio is 10 years.
Audio 10, but 3 screens, that's only for 2 years. Okay. Any reason why it's different there versus keeping it together?
Yeah, the screen is not a mandate by the federal government, but the audio is. So the screen is more for training purposes or, investigations. If there's a claim that has an issue, they've got everything at their disposal with, in order to investigate that, that claim, that complaint, whatever the case may be.
A lot of time for quality.
Yep.
Okay.
And we just access it through a single user interface.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to a web page for Calabrio, again, it's internal.
Sure.
And we can, I'm sure your system is the same. There's a multitude of different filters that you can use to search and bring up recordings.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it.
I guess 2 questions just to kind of get level set. How many agents are you dealing with today? And then I'm assuming you probably have an entire quality team that probably supports them as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
We probably have about I'd say about 400, give or take, agents.
Okay.
And then our quality team probably consists of about 8 or 10 people that is responsible for evaluating, training, that type of stuff.
And then I'm assuming they probably have a list of requirements that they're probably working through as they think about, hey, here's what we're doing today. And there's questions they either want to get answered or things that they maybe want to do different, or is that a bad assumption on my part?
No, that's a good assumption on your part. We have a list from them of things that they want in a recording system. A lot of it, most of it we have right now. Some of it is features that are available, capable within the system that we just have not enabled yet.
Okay.
But yeah, we do have a good list from them of what their requirements are.
Is that something you think you could share with us just for us to take a look at?
Sure.
Especially as we
Yeah.
talk about, premise, cloud, all of that. I think that would be helpful for our engineers to take a look at and say, hey, here's the right way to sort of thread the needle there. Typically we see, and you mentioned adding analytics. Is there a major goal around that, like finding calls faster, increase compliance, understanding what the drivers are? Have you guys kind of talked about why
All
they
of that.
actually looked at? Yeah.
It'll be a little bit of all of that, right? So the quality team could use it for their obvious reasons. It'll be good for management because they may have questions on, hey, we want to know what's trending, right? Who's calling in for what? It could be that we're calling for our Medicare cards. Well, if it's in that buzzword consistently, and we see that there's traffic being driven because of that, right? To select lines that would govern those Medicare products,
Yeah.
then they can react accordingly, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. So in a previous life, I actually worked at Aspect prior to making my way to where I'm at today. But using analytics, there was a use case we found in working with an insurer once about this word Apple kept growing as part of the word cloud. And effectively what we figured out along the way was the IT team redesigned the website, and one of the agents inside the call center started learning to direct the customers coming in to look for the Apple on the website. And that was the leading indicator to how you do Find My Doctor. And so the WFM team was like, why is our call volume up like 10-15%? They saw this word Apple growing. And the supervisor actually took that information, pushed it out to all the agents. And if you're getting a call like this, tell you the customer to look for the Apple. That's going to get them back to where the Find My Doctor is. But they took that information and pushed it back into the IT organization. Say, hey, you guys really screwed up the UI with this one. We need to get this fixed. Our call volume spiking because of it. So
Right.
there's really a lot of information you could get out of analytics depending upon what you're looking to get out of it. But yeah, that's great that you guys are starting to think in that vein.
Yep. That's why we're looking for that as an additional bolt-on, right? So we're talking about the actual call recording solution itself. However, with analytics, speech analytics, etc., that should give the business what they're desiring. And not only that, but then allow them probably a section that they're not even aware of, right?
Yeah. The other thing that you might see, and this is kind of asking about the requirements, is you might see new ways of figuring out which calls to identify, to pull down and score, to help with both collaboration or calibration of your QA analyst, but also instead of picking one out of every 10 calls, you might be more targeted with which ones you pull out if there's a theme of the month or quarter, whatever that might be, to improve
How
the
custom how customizable is it on the NICE platform from a quality perspective? I want to pull a report. What kind of information can I glean? Can I
Yeah,
build my own evaluations, et cetera? How do I score them? Can I make it numerical versus percentage based versus et cetera?
yeah, yes, yes, and yes. We're one of the leaders in the WEM space for that reason. Every quality team has their own different way of doing that, but based on what you want to do, I'm pretty confident we're going to have a way to satisfy your needs from a scorecarding perspective or calibration, or helping you identify which are the right calls to pull and score on. So
Yeah.
what's- yeah, go ahead.
Additionally, just the topic of analytics is interesting only because just from a broader scope of when you think about all the contacts we have that come into the contact center, we have one customer that's a managed service provider. So what they do, say for example, is they provide a help desk, like an IT help desk for customers. Okay, that's their business model. Like we're going to be an IT help desk, and we're going to go and sell our services to customers. And so what they've utilized our solution, which is a AI driven solution. What it does is it searches all of the contacts, right, that are coming into the contact center, whether it's voice or email or chat or whatever the channel might be, and it kind of says, okay, of all these, say 50,000 calls or emails or chats or 100,000 that came into the contact center, which ones of these are the most automatable? Which ones have the most propensity to, these intents of what people are talking about have the most potential to be automated? And then what that does is then that information, those intents, feed into our AI platform to build the self-service bots, right? So if you guys are kind of thinking about where you are today and where you're going to be 3 years or a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, the ability to have that kind of drag and drop type of technology to take those intents and then automatically build the bots, so you don't have to do the work behind that. First identifying it, but then building it. That could be something that might for your business be like, you know what I mean? So, and I don't know if that's something beyond what you're talking about right now, just beyond the scope, but that just gives you an idea of like where our technology is today.
I don't know, Jim, if 22 terabytes of audio would be enough to feed the model, but
Yeah, seems like they have a lot, but yeah, you get my drift, I'm sure.
and then I guess from a WFM perspective, how big is that team? And I guess I'm kind of curious to understand, are they doing long-term, short-term, real-time? Just kind of give me a general lay of the land of what you're doing from a WFM perspective.
Yep, I believe they're doing all three, forecasting included on top of that. So there's about a team of 6 individuals, I believe, on the operations team there that handles all of that. So they use it for keeping time tracking of agents, right? And then primarily just forecasting, the real time, the historical, etc. I think that's primarily all they really use it for. They were all aspect folks that have grown accustomed to that system, and that's why they primarily use it. I'd have to talk to that team to see if there's any other features that they leverage, but to my understanding, that's all they're really doing.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned like time card integration there. Is that
Yep.
like, are they taking the agent actuals and pushing it into like an ADP and then
Yes.
back, and are they pulling back PTO balances as well for agent self-service?
I don't think they're going that far.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they're going that far, but that'd be a question I can ask the business as to how integrated it is.
Yeah, I think we have a very, very competitive product with Aspect, just knowing that and knowing what we have under the covers here, and getting some of that synergies of bringing it together under one UI and platform can be a nice uplift as well. But we'd love to dive in more about what your WFM analysts are looking at on a day-to-day basis, what they need to see, what reports they're asking, what are they not getting answered today, to kind of say, hey, here's what you're doing today, and here's what it potentially look like in a brand new world.
Got it. So
Go ahead.
I guess with that, what are next steps then? Do we talk a little bit? Do we send you over some information here? Because eventually, what I'd like to do is,
Sure.
I'd like to put you in front of the business because they have their own questions as well. Obviously, the QA team,
Yeah.
they'll be able to get in front of you, ask directly questions, wants, needs, etc.
Mhm.
But prior to that, just wondering what our next steps are at this point. Do we get a demo of the system? Do we talk a little bit more in depth, answer some questions, etc.?
Yeah, so typically there's sort of two paths that we take on projects like this. So one is getting in front of the business, so people that are actually going to use the tool. And I think at your guys' size, with 400 agents, I don't know if we need to break that up into like a QA section and a WFM section, just so we're not having too many cooks in the kitchen there, and we can hear what those teams need to see and ask questions about, hey, what are you doing today? What would you like to see in the future? What we can do with that information is build that back into what a demo would look like on the back end. Same thing with a workforce management. And then there's usually a technical track as well that's dotting our I's and crossing our T's from a security, compliance, HIPAA, PCI, which maybe goes down a different path of maybe you or maybe the business side cares at that. And I would like to talk to you guys maybe potentially a little bit about the voice and some of the synergies you might get to making your lives easier of creating a new person, getting them to cascade through the system, how administration might be easier as well. And some of those other questions you were having around, hey, can this be viable from a security standpoint to see like, hey, what is the right pathway forward? I was clicking on your site and I noticed that it seems like it's voice today, but are you guys even interested in adding any digital channels as you look at this, you know, chats, emails, SMSs, anything like that?
Yep. So we are and will be bolting on those additional products. So email and chat, SMS integrations, outbound dialer, etc. So today we currently use virtual hold or courtesy callback, and with some inclusions of the other features that also comes with our box. As soon as we enable that, then we'll have that at our disposal as well.
Yeah, you mentioned dialer. Are you using Cisco for the dialer, or like how advanced are you? And is that like a big percentage of what you're doing, or?
There's not any percentage right now, so we're
Okay.
just in the midst of building it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it more like updates and notifications, or are you using it for anything else?
We're just kind of preparing it for what the business may want in the future. There hasn't been any decisions made. However, it would play well with one of our outbound SMS running those type of campaigns.
Yep.
And so that's at least one segue as to why they want to get it up and running. But our clinical departments could use to make those outbound campaigns as well, because they call a lot of our members.
Yeah, and then are you guys doing anything in the knowledge base area? You know, we've seen a lot of customers today put like an FAQ or some sort of knowledge base, even that's exposed to the agents internally. Have you talked about that?
We have some, but then not to that extent. We have like our own IT knowledge base, right? Knowledge base articles is what we call them. There is some shared with the business, but there isn't an open repository where anybody can go and just look at some FAQs, etc.
Yeah. And the reason I ask is we're seeing, and I'm sure you guys have probably seen this as well, you know, most of the customer interactions are starting in a digital format. 9 times out of 10, that's probably going through like a search engine or landing on your website. And what we're seeing some of our other customers do is try to take those analytics that you're talking about and understanding all the drivers and what's going on and figuring out how do we as a company potentially play offense with our customers to completely eliminate them contacting us whatsoever. So you're mentioning about, you know, outbound campaigns, right? It's how do we anticipate their needs, whether it's payment due dates or upcoming appointments or whatever these things might be, you're being proactive with it.
Yeah, and our business model is actually, or our clientele is actually very unique. We primarily service the Medicare crowd, so you're talking about 65 and up, and so the vast majority of our interactions are still the old-fashioned voice way, right? Old folks really, some of them have adapted to some of the newer technologies, but not like the youth of today. And so that's why it's still number one for us, is that our members like to actually reach in, give us a call. They don't really interact with us through traditional or digital means as of yet. You know, that crowd is slowly changing over time. However, you know, when you're 67, 68 years old, you're kind of set in your ways. And I want to call Ucare to talk about my Medicare prescriptions with them. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to do exactly that, right?
Yep. No, and I get that too. I've had that same conversation with my dad many, many times. He is set in his ways. Um, it's always it's interesting though. I kind of think about, you know, how do you know what these needs events are, and how do you just give them that little one or two nuggets of information to maybe augment their journey a little bit, or they maybe ask a different question when they get to you. And that's what we kind of see. Like, I think self-service gets a bad rap sometimes because like, oh, we're just trying to deflect you altogether. It's like, no, we're trying to augment what you're doing along your journey and where you might go. I don't know, Jim, if you had anything else to add, maybe in terms of next steps about, you know, overview of the platform as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, we always say the more that we can educate you guys, the better off we are, right? And vice versa, right? The more you can educate us on some of the things that are going on in your environment and whatnot. So maybe if you want, Tom and Tito, like maybe we could do like what I would call a capabilities discussion around, because you guys gave us a lot of information, right? And so maybe we walk through like a capabilities of the different things that, based on what we heard today, we kind of give you like some of that back so you can understand how complete the platform is, right? Because I think we eventually want to get to we want to get like hand in hand with in front of your business, of course, but we want to have the right messaging kind of guided by you guys to make sure that whatever we are presenting to your customer or the business, that it's going to land, right? That it's going to resonate with them. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe we should kind of do like a capabilities discussion with you guys so you can see what some of the things that we're talking about, So it doesn't necessarily have to be a complete point and click demo, but maybe we could kind of dive deeper into this discussion that we're having, but just with some of the graphics behind it, about what we're talking about. The
Yeah,
graph,
that would be great. And along with that, if there's any documentation, if you
yeah,
could send some over just as
like
some information for us.
like a pre-read, sure.
Yep, yep. Love to pass it on to the business as well so that they're aware that we are chit-chatting and pass them on much needed information that they're looking for, and hopefully we can get some interaction sooner than later.
For
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so how about this? Tito, should I work through you? Should I work through Tom? Who would be the right person as we kind of get?
You can send it to both of us.
Okay.
Yep.
And Tom, I don't know if you're on the invite or not. What's your email? Let me check real quick if I see you on the invite. I do see on there, so I got your email address, so don't worry about that.
Good.
I will work through both of you guys, and maybe we do sort of a dual prong thing here. I can get you some content, then we can get like a point and click overview, and then from there we can talk about the different business owners, whether that's quality and WFM, getting them sort of set up for a discussion on needs or wants, or if you want to share the requirements ahead of time, we can look at them and we might have different questions then as we look at them. That might make those hour discussions a little bit more fruitful. What do you guys think's best?
Yeah, I think that if we share some requirements with you, that would be helpful. And I think too that, we're talking about capabilities. It seems like we could wrap a demo and a capabilities discussion in the same meeting. So let's shoot for that.
That'll be totally good with us, Tom. It won't be customized, but it will be. We could definitely do that for sure. We just have different levels, right? Like what we'd call super customized demos versus like a capabilities presentation. But we're happy to do
Right.
a demonstration with it.
Sounds
I
good.
don't want
Yeah,
to
and I
have the
think
expectation that it's going to be super customized.
you bet. And
Yeah.
I think if we share that requirements information with you, that will help
Yeah.
make it more specific, to our environment with the demo and the capabilities as well.
One thing we didn't ask on, are you guys using any CRMs? I know you're primarily premise-based right now, but
We're doing a project in flight with sales, or not Salesforce, but Dynamics.
okay. When is that scheduled to be complete? Is that like near term, or are you just in the planning phase? And that's
Not
like
sure.
a 2023. Okay.
It's
And
a
so
different
that's moving
department.
projects around and stuff, but that's helpful. I mean, we could talk about what an integration with Dynamics might look like and if that's valuable to you or not.
Gotcha. And then do you guys have a lot of APIs as well?
Yeah.
There's over probably 250 APIs, and you can access them on a website. We'll give you the developer.incontact.com website that you can go to and kind of review all the calls and everything like that. Just if you wanted to. But we'll send that link.
And just curious, from an API perspective, is there something you're looking to do with it, like move data into like a data lake or something like that?
No, nothing as of yet. Just wanted to see if there's APIs built in. It's primarily because we have a few tools that we'd like to leverage or purchase as well that would help do some of the provisioning. So it'd be nice if you could auto provision like your users or do them in bulk or automate that as well. And so just kind of planning for that type of configurations that's needed by other teams.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm assuming you're probably like an Azure or an AD shop then, since you're looking at
Yes.
Dynamics. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason I ask, sometimes we've got integrations to different like BI tools, and some of them are different than others. So that's why we were asking about the APIs. If there's something in particular, we can make sure we're kind of polished up on whatever your tech stack looks like. So we can talk about how data can move from point A to point B, or how you can get it in and out.
Gotcha.
So.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, look for something from me potentially later today, if not early tomorrow, and we can get some time set up to do like a point and click demo. But getting those requirements will be helpful, so we can kind of have our talk track around the different areas that might be important to the team.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
And guys, I just put that developer.niceincontact.com website in the chat, so you could, if you wanted to take a look at all the APIs and all that documentation stuff, you certainly could.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thanks. Yep. Bye-bye.